All right, y'all. So this story here is a big deal. The United States just lost its perfect credit rating because of our rising debt. So it's a little more complicated than that. Let me walk you through it here. This is what they say in BBC. The U.S. has lost its last perfect credit rating as influential ratings firm Moody's expressed concern over the government's ability to pay back its debt. In lowering the U.S. rating from AAA to AA1, Moody's noted that successive U.S. administrations had failed to reverse ballooning deficits and interest costs. A AAA rating signifies a country's highest possible credit reliability and indicates it is considered to be in very good financial health with a strong capacity to repay its debts. Moody's warned in 2023 the U.S. AAA rating was at risk. Fitch Ratings downgraded the U.S. in 2023, and S&P Global Ratings did so in 2011. So that was like towards the end of the subprime mortgage crisis and the Great Recession. But Moody's was the last one that still had the U.S. with a perfect rating. And it was perfect since literally 1917. We've had a perfect Moody's credit rating. Wow. The downgrade reflects the increase over more than a decade in government debt and interest payment ratios to levels that are significantly higher than similarly rated sovereigns, Moody's said in a statement. In a statement, the White House said it was focused on fixing Biden's mess while taking a swipe at Moody's. If Moody's had any credibility, I don't know why I'm doing this in the Trump voice, they would not have stayed silent as the fiscal disaster of the past 4 years unfolded. A lower credit rating means countries are more likely to default on their sovereign debt and generally face higher borrowing costs. Moody's maintained that the U.S. retains exceptional credit strengths such as size, resilience, and dynamism, and the continued role of the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency. That's where I think we get to the truth of the matter, y'all. Is that I really don't think this has much to do. It has a little bit to do with debt, but the only reason the debt matters now and why the debt is a big deal now and why we're being knocked for the debt now is because, yes, for the first time in modern history, there is a question in the long run as to will the dollar remain the global reserve currency, right? People have lost faith in the dollar. They've lost faith in the United States. We've laid all the groundwork for eventually the abandonment of the dollar as the world reserve currency. And so because that's in question, then the debt matters, right? If that wasn't in question, then having the big debt, it doesn't matter because there's already tremendous faith and confidence in the dollar and it's the global currency. So that inherently makes it more stable, right? So when we had recessions in the past, the dollar would get stronger because people would do what's called the flight to safety. So get out of stocks and run to the dollar, right? Because that's safer. That's how people viewed it. Well, now people are going, well, we don't like the U.S. We don't like the dollar as the world reserve currency. We think they're kind of crazy and making insane decisions. So now the flight to safety is more the flight to gold, for example. And so as a direct result of the dollar being undermined now, that's why the debt matters. Because the debt will actually become a huge problem if and when the dollar is no longer the world reserve currency. The firm said it expects federal debt to increase to around 134% of gross domestic product by 2035, up from 98% last year. GDP is a measure of all-around economic activity of companies, governments, and people in a country. The BBC has reached out to the U.S. Department of Treasury for comment. The downgrade came on the same day as Trump's landmark spending bill suffered a setback in Congress. Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill failed to pass the House Budget Committee, with some Republicans voting against it. By the way, they voted against it because it wasn't bad enough. Figures showed the U.S. economy shrank in the first 3 months, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, this is a huge deal, man. This is a huge deal. We also have this. Markets rattled as concerns about U.S. debt. On concerns about U.S. debt. Stocks fell, the dollar slipped, and bond yields jumped after a ratings downgrade highlighted worries about the cost of President Trump's policies and the health of the economy. So since then, the bill has advanced and gotten out of committee, and the bill destroys Medicaid as we know it, like absolutely slashes Medicaid. And at the same time, it's a class war bill, which basically gives the wealthy a bunch of money and raises taxes on the working class. So shakes down the bottom 95% and gives a whole bunch of money to the top 1%. And again, at the same time, these massive tax cuts for the wealthy explode the deficit and the debt even further. And so between the trade war, which is idiotic, the lack of faith in the dollar, and now this, I even at this late date, I feel like the market, even though it's going down, we're nowhere near the bottom, bro. Because we have an average tariff rate that looks like that of Smoot-Hawley, which exacerbated the Great Depression. And people really think, oh, buy the dip, we've hit the bottom. What are you, crazy? We're nowhere near the bottom, bro. And now you have Bessent going on the Sunday show saying, like, no, the tariff pause really is just a pause, and maybe we'll go back to the higher rates. And it's like, Are you guys just begging for an economic collapse? Because you're doing everything you can to bring one about. That's for damn sure. So we are really, really on shaky ground right now. Not just because stocks are plummeting, but also because, the dollar and U.S. debt are in trouble. They're both in serious trouble. And we've never been in a situation like this. And the Fed is in a place where they don't quite know how to maneuver through this, right? Trump wants them to lower interest rates, but if they lower interest rates, that'll increase inflation at a time when we're going to have these massive price hikes, which is effectively inflation. So, lowering it, raising it, keeping it the same, they're sort of stymied at the moment. They're sort of checkmated. And I think we're just getting started here, bro. This is just the beginning. And the people who are running this country have no fucking idea in the slightest what they're doing. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.